Ambassador Henry Clark stood in the center of the great chamber. Above him, thousands of seats rose in circles, each one filled with an alien being. Some had scales, some had fur, some looked like they were made of light itself. This was the Galactic Senate, and Henry was the only human in the room. He had been Earth's voice here for 3 years now. 3 long years of learning how to speak carefully, how to smile when aliens insulted his species, how to play the political games that kept Earth safe. But today felt different. Today the air in the chamber was heavy with tension. Chancellor Orrin Thale sat at the highest point in the chamber. The old being looked like a massive crystal, glowing with soft blue light. His voice echoed through the room like music. He had led the Senate for 300 years. Henry respected him, but he also knew that Thale thought humans were children playing in a world they did not understand. A reptilian senator rose from his seat. Senator Vexthor. Henry felt his stomach tighten. The Vrexian was tall, covered in dark green scales with eyes that glowed red. He was one of the most powerful voices in the Senate, and he hated humanity. Vexthor's voice was smooth and cold. He spoke to the chamber, but his eyes stayed locked on Henry. We gather today to discuss Resolution 447. This resolution is simple. It asks all member species to reduce their military forces to a standard level, a level that ensures peace, a level that prevents war. The chamber filled with murmurs of agreement. Vexthor continued. We have lived in peace for over 1,000 years. The Senate has maintained order. But now a new species has joined us. Humanity. They have been with us for only 15 years, and in that time they have built more warships than some species build in a century. They expand aggressively. They claim system after system. They refuse to slow down. Henry kept his face calm, but inside anger burned. Everything Vexthor said was twisted. Yes, humans had built ships. They had to. When Earth first made contact with aliens, they learned a hard truth. The galaxy was dangerous. Species that appeared friendly could turn hostile. Pirates attacked colony ships. Unknown threats lurked in deep space. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself with nuclear weapons 200 years ago. They learned from that mistake. They learned that being weak invited attack. Being unprepared meant death. Vexthor held up a datapad. Images appeared in the air above the chamber floor. Human warships, dozens of them. This is not the fleet of a peaceful species. This is the fleet of conquerors. Resolution 447 will require humanity to reduce their military by 70%. They will decommission their largest ships. They will close most of their shipyards. This is not punishment. This is protection. Protection for all of us. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some senators nodded. Others looked uncertain. Henry saw Senator Cale Brightstone, a moderate voice from the Luminar Collective, frown and lean forward in his seat. Chancellor Thale raised one crystalline hand. Silence fell instantly. Ambassador Clark. You may speak. Henry stepped forward. Every eye in the chamber focused on him. He took a slow breath and began. Thank you, Chancellor. I have listened to Senator Vexthor's concerns. I understand that our rapid growth worries some members of this Senate. But I must ask a question. When humanity joined this body 15 years ago, we were promised protection. We were told that the Senate maintains peace, that member species help each other. He paused, letting the words sink in. In those 15 years, human colonies have been attacked 7 times by pirates. 7 times we asked for Senate assistance. 7 times we were told that our colonies were too far from Senate patrol routes. We learned quickly that we could only rely on ourselves. So yes, we built ships. We built defenses. We did what we had to do to protect our people. Vexthor's eyes narrowed. His forked tongue flickered between his teeth. You speak of defense, Ambassador, but your ships are armed for war. Your colonies are militarized. You train every civilian in combat. This is not defense. This is preparation for conquest. Henry met the Vrexian's gaze without flinching. We train our people because we remember what it means to be helpless. We remember what it means to be conquered. Humanity's history is written in blood and fire. We will never be helpless again. The chamber buzzed with conversation. Chancellor Thale raised his hand again. The resolution has been presented. Ambassador Clark, Earth must respond. Will you accept Resolution 447? Henry felt the weight of the moment. If he said no right now, Earth would be seen as defiant. The Senate might impose sanctions. They might even expel humanity. But if he said yes, Earth would be forced to dismantle the defenses that kept them safe. He chose his words carefully. Chancellor, this is not a simple request. You are asking Earth to fundamentally change how we ensure our survival. I need time to consult with my government. I request 30 days to provide a formal response. Vexthor hissed. 30 days to build more ships? 30 days to prepare for war? Chancellor Thale's glow brightened slightly. When he spoke, his voice was firm but not unkind. 30 days is reasonable. But Ambassador, understand this clearly. If Earth refuses this resolution, there will be consequences. The Senate cannot allow one species to threaten the peace we have maintained for a millennium. You have your time. Use it wisely. Henry bowed his head respectfully. Thank you, Chancellor. The session ended. As senators filed out of the chamber, several gave Henry long, measuring looks. Some seemed sympathetic. Others looked at him like he was already an enemy. Henry returned to his quarters on the station and immediately opened a secure communication channel to Earth. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Admiral Kate Morrison. She commanded the ECS Defiance, Earth's most powerful warship, currently stationed just outside the Senate's neutral zone. Kate was in her 50s, with short gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She had fought in 3 separate conflicts during humanity's expansion into space. She was a warrior but also a brilliant strategist. Tell me, she said without preamble. Henry explained the resolution. As he spoke, Kate's expression grew darker. 70% reduction. They want us defenseless, that is my assessment, yes. Kate leaned back in her chair. And Vexthor is leading this? He is the main voice, yes. But he has support. Many of the older species see us as disruptive. Kate was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. It was not a warm smile. They think we are dangerous now? They have no idea. Kate, we have to be careful. If we push too hard, the Senate could turn completely against us. The Admiral shook her head. Henry, you are good at politics, but I am good at war. And I am telling you, this resolution is not about peace. This is about control. They want to weaken us before they make a move. You think the Vrexians are planning something? I think Vexthor does not push for disarmament unless he has a reason. And that reason is probably not our safety. Kate turned to someone off screen. Sullivan, get in here. A younger man appeared beside Kate. Lieutenant Commander Jake Sullivan was her tactical officer. He was 32 with dark hair and quick, intelligent eyes. Henry had met him once before and been impressed by how fast the man thought. Jake, Kate said, tell the ambassador what you found. Sullivan pulled up data on his pad. We have been monitoring Vrexian space for months. Standard intelligence gathering. 3 weeks ago, we detected unusual activity. Shipyards are running at full capacity. Military units are conducting large-scale exercises. They are mobilizing. Henry felt cold. Mobilizing for what? Unknown. But the timing is interesting, is it not? They push a disarmament resolution right when they are building up their own forces. Kate leaned forward. Henry, I need to start preparing. We have 30 days. I am going to use every second. Preparing what? Kate's smile returned. Something I have been working on. We call it Operation Checkmate. If the Senate wants to play games, we will show them that humans are very good at games. The transmission ended. Henry sat alone in his quarters, staring at the blank screen. He had bought Earth 30 days. But 30 days to do what? Accept terms that would leave them vulnerable? Or refuse and risk everything? He did not know yet. But he knew one thing for certain. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and near extinction. They had clawed their way up from the ruins of nuclear war to reach the stars. They would not bow now. Not to Vexthor. Not to the Senate. Not to anyone. Outside his window, stars stretched in every direction. Each one was a sun. Each one might have worlds. Worlds that humanity might one day reach. Worlds they would defend. Whatever came next, Earth would face it standing tall. That was what humans did. That was what they had always done. General Linda Hayes sat at the head of the long table. Around her, the most powerful military and civilian leaders on Earth waited for her to speak. The room was deep underground in Geneva, protected by layers of steel and stone. This was where humanity made its most important decisions. Linda was 60 years old, with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had spent 40 years in Earth's military, rising through the ranks by being smarter than everyone else. She did not win by being the strongest. She won by thinking 3 moves ahead. The hologram in the center of the table showed the text of Resolution 447. Linda had read it a dozen times. Each time she found new reasons to hate it. She looked around the table. To her left sat Admiral Kate Morrison, attending via secure video link from the ECS Defiance. To her right was President Alex Carter, leader of Earth's unified government. Others filled the remaining seats. Defense ministers, intelligence chiefs, ship designers, scientists. Let us be clear about what we are discussing, Linda said. Her voice was calm, but everyone in the room could hear the steel beneath it. The Senate is demanding that we reduce our fleet by 70%. We would be forced to decommission every capital ship larger than 1 kilometer. We would close most of our shipyards. We would become defenseless. President Carter spoke up. He was a younger man, only 50, with dark skin and tired eyes. The Senate says this is about maintaining peace. Should we not at least consider their perspective? Kate's voice came through the speakers. With respect, Mr. President, the Senate's perspective is irrelevant if they are lying to us. Do we have proof they are lying? Carter asked. We have intelligence, Kate replied. Phyrexian military buildup, increased activity in their shipyards, training exercises involving hundreds of ships. This is not the behavior of a species preparing for peace. One of the defense ministers leaned forward. Even if the Phyrexians are preparing for war, refusing the resolution could turn the entire Senate against us. We would be isolated, sanctioned, possibly expelled. Linda held up her hand. Everyone fell silent. I did not call this meeting to debate whether we should accept or refuse. I called this meeting to present a third option. Operation Checkmate. She pressed a button. The hologram changed. Now it showed ship designs, technical specifications, and deployment patterns. The resolution specifies exact parameters: ship size, crew numbers, weapons capacity. They want us to decommission ships above a certain size, fine. We will do exactly that. But they said nothing about what we can build to replace them. Kate was smiling now. General Hayes and I have been working on this for weeks. Show them the designs, Linda. The hologram showed a new type of ship. It was smaller than Earth's current warships, barely half the size. But as Linda explained the specifications, eyes around the table began to widen. This is the Raptor-class frigate. It is just under the size limit specified in the resolution, but it carries advanced plasma cannons, missile pods, and point defense systems that are twice as effective as anything on our current capital ships. It is faster, more maneuverable, and harder to detect. One Raptor can outfight any ship the Phyrexians currently have. President Carter was leaning forward now, studying the design. How many can we build? Linda smiled. That is the beautiful part. The resolution limits the number of capital ships we can have. But these fall below that classification. Technically, they are frigates. We can build as many as we want. Our projections show we can have 300 operational within 6 months. 300 ships. The number hung in the air. Earth's current fleet had about 100 capital ships. If they built 300 Raptors, their actual combat power would triple. That is Phase 1, Linda continued. Phase 2 involves converting civilian infrastructure, mining stations, cargo haulers, orbital platforms. We will retrofit them with modular weapon systems that can be activated in emergencies. The Senate wants military reduction. We will reduce our military, but we will militarize everything else. A new face appeared on one of the screens. Dr. Aaron Webb, Chief of Weapons Development. He was a thin man with wild gray hair and eyes that burned with intensity. I need to tell you about Phase 3, he said. Quantum communication. We have been working on this for 5 years. Quantum entangled communication systems that allow instant coordination across any distance. The Phyrexians use traditional FTL communication with a 2-second delay. We will have 0 delay. Our fleets will move as one mind. That advantage alone changes everything. President Carter sat back in his chair. Let me understand this. We accept the resolution. We decommission our big ships. But we build smaller, better ships. We arm our civilian infrastructure. And we deploy communication technology that gives us a tactical edge no one else has. Exactly, Linda said. We comply with the letter of the resolution while making ourselves stronger than ever. The president looked around the table. Everyone was nodding. But one screen showed a different face. Captain Nina Foster, commander of the colony ship Horizon. She looked angry. That all sounds good for Earth, but what about us? What about the colonies? Nina was a tough woman who had spent 10 years on the frontier. She had fought off pirate raids with nothing but mining lasers and determination. She did not trust politicians, and she did not hide it. The colonies are 20 light years from Earth. If something attacks us, your fancy new fleet cannot help us. We need our own defenses, Linda nodded. You are absolutely right. That is why Phase 4 involves distributing military-grade equipment to every colony. Training, weapons, ships. You will have what you need to defend yourselves. Nina's expression softened slightly. You are serious? Completely. We cannot defend the colonies if they depend entirely on Earth. You need to be self-sufficient. We will make sure you are. Nina was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. If you follow through on that, the colonies will back this plan. But if you leave us hanging, we will declare independence. We will not be defenseless just because some aliens in fancy chairs told us to be. President Carter stood up. He walked to the hologram, studying the ship designs and deployment maps. Then he turned to face everyone. General Hayes, you have my authorization to proceed with Operation Checkmate. We will formally accept Resolution 447. We will comply with every requirement. And we will show the Senate that humanity does not break when pushed. We bend, we adapt, we come back stronger. The room erupted in activity. Officers began coordinating with shipyards. Scientists started preparing technology transfers. Intelligence teams worked on monitoring the Vrexians. The machine of human determination began to move. Linda stayed in her seat, watching everyone work. Kate's face was still on the screen. This is going to work, Kate said quietly. It has to, Linda replied, because if it does not, we are finished. Kate's expression turned grim. Have you seen the latest intelligence reports? Not yet. What did you find? Vrexian fleet movements. They are positioning ships near the border of human space. Not just a few, hundreds, maybe more. Linda felt ice in her stomach. They are preparing to invade. That is my assessment. The disarmament resolution was never about peace. It was about weakening us before they attack. How long do we have? Unknown. Could be weeks. Could be months. But they are coming, Linda. That much is certain. Linda looked at the hologram showing the Raptor-class frigate. Such a small ship. But it represented something much bigger. It represented human ingenuity. The ability to take a problem and turn it into an opportunity. Then we work faster. We build more ships. We prepare our colonies. And when the Vrexians come, they will find out that trying to kill humanity is the worst mistake they could make. Kate smiled. That is what I like to hear. The Defiance is ready. My crew is ready. We are just waiting for the Vrexians to make their move. Good. Because I have a feeling we will not have to wait long. The transmission ended. Linda sat alone in the command center, surrounded by screens showing ship construction, resource allocation, and military deployments. 28 days left until the Senate deadline. 28 days to make humanity strong enough to survive what was coming. Around Earth, the shipyards came alive. Millions of workers began constructing the new Raptor-class frigates. In orbit around the moon, massive factories retooled their production lines. On colony worlds across human space, civilians reported for military training. The Senate thought they could force humanity to disarm. They thought humans would either comply and become weak, or refuse and become isolated. But humanity chose a third path. The path they always chose when faced with impossible odds. They would adapt. They would innovate. They would survive. And when the Senate realized what humanity had done when they saw Operation Checkmate in action, they would understand a fundamental truth about humans. 30 days had passed. Ambassador Henry Clark stood once again in the center of the Galactic Senate chamber. This time he was not alone. Behind him, displayed on the massive holographic screens, was Earth's response to Resolution 447. The chamber was packed. Every senator was present. Even those who usually skipped sessions had come to witness this moment. They expected either surrender or defiance. Henry intended to give them neither. Chancellor Orrin Thale's crystalline form glowed softly in the dim light. His voice filled the chamber. Ambassador Clark, the 30 days have passed. Earth must now provide its answer to Resolution 447. Will you comply with the requirements for military reduction? Henry took a breath. This was the moment. Everything depended on how he played this. Chancellor, honored senators. Earth has carefully reviewed Resolution 447. We understand the concerns expressed by this body. We recognize that our rapid military expansion has caused worry among some member species. Therefore, after extensive deliberation, Earth formally accepts Resolution 447 and commits to full compliance with all specified requirements. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Senator Vexthor leaned forward in his seat, eyes narrowed. He looked suspicious, as if waiting for the trap. Chancellor Thale raised his hand for silence. That is welcome news, Ambassador. Earth's cooperation will be noted. Henry smiled slightly. However, Chancellor, I believe the Senate will want to see evidence of our compliance. May I present Earth's implementation plan? Of course. Please proceed. Henry pressed a control on his wrist device. The holographic screens flared to life. Data streamed across them. Ship registrations, decommissioning schedules, technical specifications. As required by Resolution 447, Earth has decommissioned all capital ships exceeding 1 kilometer in length. 72 vessels have been removed from active service. Our largest shipyards have been closed or converted to civilian production. All of this has been completed as of yesterday. Senators nodded. Some looked satisfied. Vexthor still looked suspicious. Henry continued. However, the resolution did not prohibit the construction of new vessels, provided they meet the specified parameters. I would now like to introduce you to Earth's new defensive fleet. The hologram changed. A sleek, deadly-looking ship appeared. It was smaller than Earth's old capital ships, but something about its design made it look dangerous. Very dangerous. This is the Raptor-class frigate. Length 900 meters. Crew complement 120. Main armament classified. The ship falls well within all parameters specified by Resolution 447. A senator from the Luminar Collective, Cale Brightstone, spoke up. Ambassador, how many of these frigates has Earth built? Henry smiled. 300. All operational. All currently deployed across human space. The chamber exploded. Senators jumped to their feet, shouting questions. Vexthor's face twisted with rage. This is a violation, he roared. You decommission 70 ships and build 300 in their place? This is not compliance. This is mockery. Henry remained calm. Senator Vexthor, I would ask you to cite which specific provision of Resolution 447 we have violated. The resolution limited capital ships by size, crew, and armament capacity. These frigates meet all those requirements. The resolution said nothing about how many ships below that threshold we could construct. You are playing word games. Vexthor hissed. I am following the law, Henry replied. The law that this Senate wrote. If the language was imprecise, that is not Earth's fault. As if to prove his point, the view outside the station's observation windows suddenly changed. A ship decloaked right next to the station. The Raptor-class frigate hung in space, close enough to see details of its hull. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. This is the ECS Phantom, Henry said. Commander Peter Grant is her captain. The Phantom is equipped with the latest stealth technology, advanced plasma weapons, and point defense systems that can track and destroy 50 targets simultaneously. She is faster than anything the Vrexians have, more maneuverable than anything the Luminar Collective has built, and we have 300 of them. Senator Brightstone was studying the ship with clear interest. Ambassador Clark, these specifications are impressive, far beyond what we expected humanity could achieve. Henry nodded, which brings me to my second point. Earth recognizes that we are newcomers to the galactic community. We understand that trust must be earned. Therefore, we are offering to share our advanced technology with interested Senate members. That got everyone's attention. Senators who had been muttering to each other fell silent. Specifically, we are offering our quantum communication technology. This system allows instant coordination between ships, with zero communication delay regardless of distance. It provides a significant tactical advantage. We are prepared to share this technology with any Senate member who voted against Resolution 447. The chamber erupted again. This time not in anger, but in excitement. 15 species had voted against the resolution. Now those same species were being offered advanced military technology for free. Vexthor saw what was happening and tried to stop it. This is bribery. You are trying to buy allies. Henry turned to face the Vrexian directly. No, Senator. I am building alliances based on mutual benefit, something the Senate should have been doing all along instead of trying to force weaker species into submission. The insult hung in the air. Several senators gasped, but others nodded. Senator Brightstone stood. Chancellor Thale, I request permission to speak. Granted. Brightstone looked around the chamber. I've been reviewing intelligence reports from my government. Reports that were delivered to me just this morning. Reports that show massive Vrexian military buildup along the borders of human space. Hundreds of warships. Training exercises. Supply depots being established. He turned to face Vexthor. Senator, would you care to explain why the Vrexian Confederation is mobilizing for war, while simultaneously pushing a resolution to disarm other species? Vexthor's scaled face flushed darker. That is classified military information. I will not discuss it in this forum. How convenient, Brightstone said coldly. The Luminar Collective also has reports. Reports showing Vrexian ships operating in neutral space. Reports of intimidation and threats against smaller species. Perhaps Resolution 447 was never about peace at all. Perhaps it was about weakening potential rivals before you moved against them. The chamber descended into chaos. Senators were shouting. Accusations flew. The carefully maintained order of the Galactic Senate was crumbling. Chancellor Thale's form flared bright, forcing everyone to look away. When the light dimmed, his voice carried the weight of 3 centuries of authority. Enough. This session is suspended. Senator Vexthor, the Senate Security Council will investigate these allegations. Ambassador Clark, your compliance with Resolution 447 is accepted, though I suspect future resolutions will be worded more carefully. Henry bowed. Thank you, Chancellor. As senators filed out of the chamber, many approached Henry. Senator Brightstone was first ambassador. The Luminar Collective is very interested in your quantum communication technology, and perhaps in a mutual defense treaty. Henry shook the senator's hand. I think that can be arranged. 5 more senators made similar requests within the hour. By the end of the day, Earth had gone from isolated newcomer to the center of a new alliance bloc. The balance of power in the Senate had fundamentally shifted. Henry returned to his quarters and opened a secure channel to Admiral Kate Morrison. I watched the whole thing, Kate said, grinning. That was beautiful. You destroyed them without firing a shot. It worked better than I hoped. But Kate, we need to be ready. Vexthor is exposed now, cornered. That makes him more dangerous, not less. Kate's grin faded. I know, intelligence is showing increased Vrexian activity. They are preparing something. How long? Days, maybe a week. The Defiance is ready. The fleet is deployed. When they come, we will be waiting. Henry looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Vrexian warships were preparing to attack human space. They thought humanity was still weak, still vulnerable. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Senate had tried to disarm humanity. Instead, they had forced humans to reveal just how dangerous they could be when pushed into a corner. Earth had complied with every rule, followed every requirement, and emerged stronger than ever. Now it was time to show the Vrexians what that meant. Henry closed the communication and sat alone in the dark. Outside, the Senate station's lights twinkled. Inside, the political order that had lasted 1,000 years was beginning to crack, and at the heart of that crack was humanity. Small, young, stubborn, unbreakable. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. You could try to control. The colony world of New Harmony hung in space like a blue and green jewel. 2 million humans called it home. They had farms, cities, schools, and dreams of a peaceful future. In 3 hours, none of that would matter. Colonel Lisa Stone stood in the command center buried deep beneath the colonial capital. Around her, screens showed the approaching threat. 200 Vrexian warships moving in perfect formation toward New Harmony. Lisa was 45 years old, with sun-weathered skin and gray streaks in her black hair. She had spent 20 years in Earth's military before retiring to New Harmony. She thought she was done with war. She was wrong. Status report, she said calmly. A young officer looked up from his console. Vrexian fleet will enter weapons range in 2 hours and 40 minutes. They are not attempting to hide their approach. They think we are defenseless. Lisa smiled grimly. Good. Let them think that. Have all civilian shelters been activated? Yes, Colonel. Everyone is underground. Schools, hospitals, residential areas. All secure and our defenses armed and ready. The orbital platforms are online. The converted cargo ships are in position. The mining stations have activated their weapon systems. Every civilian who completed combat training is at their station. Lisa nodded. This was what Operation Checkmate was really about. Not just building ships, building a defense network where every piece of civilian infrastructure could become a weapon when needed. The Vrexians were expecting a colony with a few security ships. What they were about to find would be very different. Sam Rivers entered the command center carrying a data pad. Sam was a civilian engineer, 52 years old with thinning red hair and a gift for making things work that should not work. He had spent the last month converting mining equipment into weapons. "Colonel, I have something to show you." "We finished the surprise." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "The surprise was ready? I thought you needed another week." Sam grinned. "Turns out terror is a great motivator. We worked around the clock. 15 asteroids, each with a modified mining charge. We positioned them along the Vrexians' most likely approach vector. When they get close enough, boom." Lisa studied the tactical display. The asteroids were scattered seemingly randomly, but she could see the pattern. If the Vrexians came in at their current angle, they would fly right through the field. "How much damage will this do?" Sam shrugged. "Mining charges are designed to crack asteroids. Vrexian ships have armor, but if we catch them by surprise, we could disable maybe 10 to 15 ships. Maybe more if we are lucky." "That is excellent work, Sam. Get back to your station. The fun is about to start." Aboard the Vrexian flagship Crimson Fang, Admiral Vraxkor studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The human colony was ahead, helpless and alone. Intelligence reported that Earth's nearest military base was 3 weeks away at best. By the time help arrived, New Harmony would be under Vrexian control. Vraxkor was an old warrior, covered in battle scars. He had fought in 7 campaigns and won them all. This would be his easiest victory. The Senate's disarmament resolution should have weakened humanity. Instead, the humans had humiliated Senator Vexthor with their clever tricks. Well, now humanity would learn that tricks did not matter when real warriors came calling. Tactical Officer report. "We are approaching the colony, Admiral. No defensive ships detected. We are picking up standard civilian traffic. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, orbital platforms. Nothing that poses a threat." Vraxkor nodded. The humans were fools to think they could stand against the Vrexian Confederation. This colony would fall in hours. Then others would follow. And when Earth was surrounded and isolated, they would surrender or be destroyed. "Prepare to enter weapons range. All ships combat formation. We will obliterate their orbital defenses first, then begin landing troops." The Vrexian fleet moved forward, 200 warships arranged in perfect military precision. They entered the asteroid field. Nothing happened. They continued forward. Then, just as they reached the center of the field, space lit up with explosions. Asteroids detonated on all sides. The mining charges Sam had converted into improvised mines tore through Vrexian shields. Ships rocked. Some lost power. Others spun out of formation, venting atmosphere. "What is happening?" Vraxkor roared. The tactical officer's voice was panicked. "Mines. The asteroids were rigged with explosives. We have taken heavy damage across the fleet." Before Vraxkor could respond, the second phase of New Harmony's defense began. What looked like ordinary orbital platforms suddenly unfolded, revealing missile batteries. Cargo ships that should have been fleeing instead turned to face the Vrexian fleet, weapons ports opening. Even the mining stations joined in, their industrial lasers repurposed as defensive weapons. In the command center, Lisa watched her plan unfold. The distributed defense network was working exactly as designed. Every piece of civilian infrastructure that could be armed had been armed. Every colonist with military training was at their post. New Harmony was not a helpless colony. It was a fortress that looked like a colony. All units fire at will, prioritize damaged ships. Let us finish what the mine started. The space around New Harmony became a storm of weapons fire. Missiles streaked from hidden launchers. Energy beams lanced out from platforms that should have been unarmed. The Vrexians tried to return fire, but their formation was broken. Their ships were scattered and disorganized. Then Admiral Kate Morrison arrived. The ECS Defiance dropped out of quantum space right in the middle of the Vrexian formation. She was not alone. 50 Raptor-class frigates materialized around her, appearing at multiple points simultaneously. The new quantum communication system let them coordinate the jump with perfect precision. Kate stood on the Defiance's bridge, watching the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The Vrexians had walked into a trap. Now it was time to close it. All ships execute swarm protocol. Do not give them a chance to regroup. Lieutenant Commander Jake Sullivan, now her second-in-command, coordinated the attack. The human ships did not fight like traditional warships. They moved like a pack of predators, attacking from multiple angles, never staying still long enough to be targeted. The larger, more powerful Vrexian ships could not bring their weapons to bear against opponents who refused to fight fair. A raptor would dart in, fire a volley of missiles, then jump away before the Vrexians could respond. Another would attack from a different direction. Then another. The Vrexians were surrounded by enemies that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Vraxus? Kor watched his fleet being torn apart and felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. The humans were not fighting by any rules he understood. Their ships were smaller but faster. Their weapons were more accurate. Their coordination was impossible. How could they communicate so quickly across such distances? "We are losing ships," his tactical officer shouted. 20 destroyed! 40 more damaged! They are cutting us to pieces. All ships fall back. Retreat to the rally point. But when the Vrexians tried to retreat, they found human ships waiting on every escape route. Kate had predicted this. She had positioned her forces to create a trap. The Vrexians were not just losing. They were surrounded. Kate opened a communication channel to the Vrexian flagship. "Admiral Vrexkor, this is Admiral Kate Morrison of the Earth Combined Forces. You have two choices. Surrender your fleet and return to Vrexian space under escort, or be destroyed where you stand. You have 60 seconds to decide." Vrexkor looked at his tactical display. 40 ships destroyed, 60 more damaged. The humans were in complete control of the battlefield. If he refused, his entire fleet would be wiped out. Thousands of Vrexian warriors would die. For what, to prove a point? He was a warrior, but he was not a fool. "We surrender." The Vrexian fleet powered down their weapons. Human ships moved into escort positions, guiding the defeated armada away from New Harmony. The battle was over. Not one human had died. The colony was safe. In the command center, Lisa allowed herself a moment of relief. Then she opened a channel to the surface, all clear. "The threat has been neutralized. You can come out of the shelters now." Sam Rivers appeared beside her, grinning widely. "We did it." "We actually did it," Lisa smiled. "We did? And we did it because every single person on this colony was ready to fight. That is what makes us strong. Not the ships. Not the weapons. The people." On the Defiance, Kate received a transmission from Chancellor Thale himself. The old crystalline being's voice carried a note of something Kate had never heard from him before. "Respect, Admiral Morrison. The Senate has been monitoring the situation. Your defense of New Harmony was extraordinary. The Vrexian Confederation has been formally censured. Senator Vexthor has been removed from all positions of authority, and the Senate would like to discuss new terms with humanity. Terms of partnership, not control." Kate nodded. "We are willing to discuss partnership, Chancellor, but it must be as equals. Humanity will not be controlled or diminished ever again. I believe the Senate understands that now." Thale replied quietly. The transmission ended. Kate looked out at the stars, at the damaged Vrexian fleet being escorted away, at the colony world spinning peacefully below. The Galactic Senate had tried to disarm humanity. They had tried to make... 3 months had passed since the Battle of New Harmony. The Galactic Senate chamber looked the same as always, with its thousands of seats rising in circles toward the ceiling. But everything else had changed. Ambassador Henry Clark sat in Earth's designated seat. Beside him now sat other human representatives. President Elena Shaw, the newly elected leader of Earth's unified government. Admiral Kate Morrison, hero of New Harmony, and representatives from a dozen human colonies. Elena was 53 years old with dark hair starting to go gray and intelligent brown eyes. She had been elected specifically because humanity needed someone who could navigate the new political landscape they found themselves in, someone who could turn military victory into lasting peace. Chancellor Oren Thale's crystalline form glowed softly at the highest point of the chamber. His voice when he spoke carried across the entire space. "This emergency session has been called to address Resolution 447 and the recent conflict with the Vrexian Confederation. The Senate Security Council has completed its investigation. The findings are clear. The Vrexian government, under Senator Vexthor's leadership, did indeed plan an aggressive war against humanity. Resolution 447 was designed to weaken Earth before that attack. The resolution is hereby officially repealed." The chamber filled with murmurs. Some senators looked relieved. Others looked ashamed. A few still looked angry. Furthermore, Thale continued, the Vrexian Confederation has been fined and placed under military restrictions. Former Senator Vexthor faces trial for war crimes. But this brings us to a larger question. How do we prevent such situations in the future? Senator Dravek rose from his seat. He was from a neutral species called the Calibrans, beings that looked like they were made of flowing water. His voice was calm and thoughtful. Chancellor, if I may speak, the crisis with humanity has revealed deep problems in how this Senate operates. For too long, older species have held power, while newer members are treated as subordinate. This breeds resentment and conflict. We need fundamental reform. Several senators nodded. Senator Cale Brightstone of the Luminar Collective stood as well. I agree with Senator Dravek. The Senate tried to force humanity into submission, rather than working with them as partners. We nearly started a war because of our own arrogance. If humanity had been weaker or less innovative, thousands would have died. We cannot let this happen again. President Shaw raised her hand. Chancellor Thale nodded permission for her to speak. Earth has a proposal. We call it the Concordia Accords, named after this station. The basic principle is simple. Every species in the Senate should have the right to maintain whatever military forces they believe necessary for self-defense. But in exchange, all species commit to transparency about their capabilities and intentions. She pressed a button, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing the details of the proposal. The Accords would create a joint defense command, not to control any species' military, but to coordinate responses to genuine threats. Pirates, hostile unknown forces, natural disasters. The things we should be working together to fight instead of fighting each other. Additionally, the Senate itself would be reorganized. Instead of power being concentrated in the hands of a few ancient species, representation would be proportional. Every species would have a real voice. Decisions would require broader consensus. Admiral Morrison stood. She had changed out of her military uniform and wore civilian clothes, but everyone in the chamber knew who she was. The admiral who had defeated a fleet 3 times her size without losing a single human life. Earth is also prepared to share our technology. The quantum communication systems that prove so effective at New Harmony, our ship designs, our tactical innovations. We will open our advanced shipyards to any Senate member who wants to train with us. Not as a gift. As an exchange. You have technologies and knowledge we lack. Let us elevate each other instead of trying to tear each other down. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some senators were enthusiastic. Others were skeptical. A few looked outright hostile at the idea of giving up their privileged positions. Chancellor Thale let the debate continue for several minutes. Then he raised his crystalline hand and silence fell. I have led this Senate for 300 years. In that time I believed I was maintaining peace. But perhaps I was only maintaining control. Perhaps the difference matters more than I realized. He paused, his glow dimming slightly. Humanity nearly destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons 200 years ago. They rebuilt from the ashes. They learned cooperation. They learned that survival requires unity, not dominance. Perhaps we who have lived so long in peace have forgotten those lessons. I support the Concordia Accords. It is time for change. The vote was called. When the results appeared, the chamber fell silent. The Concordia Accords had passed with 83% support. The old order was officially over. Over the following days, the Senate was restructured. New committees were formed. Power was redistributed, and Ambassador Clark found himself appointed to lead the new Joint Defense Coordination Committee, working with representatives from 15 other species. 6 months later, Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the observation deck of a new ship. The ECS Unity was the first vessel built under the Concordia Accords. Her crew was multinational, with humans, Luminar, Calibrans, and 5 other species working side by side. Lieutenant Commander Jake Sullivan, now promoted to full commander and serving as the Unity's executive officer, joined her at the window. It is strange, is it not? Jake said. 6 months ago we were at war. Now we are training together. Building together, Kate nodded. People can change faster than you think when they realize they have to. The Senate spent 1,000 years becoming complacent. We forced them to wake up. Do you think it will last? The peace, I mean. Kate was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars. That depends on what comes next. The reports from deep space are getting more concerning. Unknown ships, strange signals. Something is out there beyond the edge of known space. Something that might be worse than the Vrexians ever were. Jake followed her gaze. Then it is good we are not facing it alone. Exactly. That is the whole point. Humanity survived because we refused to give up. But we are thriving because we learned to work together. First with ourselves, now with others. That is the real lesson the Senate needed to learn. The Unity's engines powered up, ready for her maiden voyage into the unknown regions. A mixed crew of humans and aliens working together for the first time. It was not perfect. There were still tensions, still misunderstandings, but they were trying. Kate thought back to that day in the Senate chamber when Henry Clark had stood alone, surrounded by aliens who wanted to break humanity's spirit. They had tried to disarm Earth, to make humans weak, to force them into submission. Instead, they had forced humanity to prove what they were really capable of. Strategic thinking, technological innovation, unbreakable determination, and most importantly, the ability to turn enemies into allies. The Senate had learned that humans do not break when pushed. They adapt, they overcome. They find a third option when presented with two bad choices. And now, as the Unity jumped into quantum space and vanished into the depths of the galaxy, humanity was leading the way into a new era, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as partners in something larger than themselves. Back on Earth in the military archives, a young historian was writing the official record of what came to be called the Senate Crisis. She wrote about Resolution 447, about Operation Checkmate, about the Battle of New Harmony, about how humanity had faced extinction and turned it into opportunity. But the line that would be quoted for generations, the line that captured the whole story, was simple. They tried to disarm us. We responded by arming ourselves with something more powerful than weapons. We armed ourselves with unity, innovation, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. Years later, a young human child sat in a classroom on Mars, learning about the Senate crisis for the first time. The teacher, an older woman who had lived through those days, told the story with quiet pride. The child raised their hand. "Teacher, why did the Senate try to make us weak?" The teacher smiled. "Because they were afraid. They saw how quickly we grew, how determined we were, and they were scared. But fear is not a good reason to hurt someone." The Senate learned that lesson the hard way, and we taught them? No, we showed them. There is a difference. Teaching is telling someone what to think. Showing is letting them discover the truth themselves. The Senate discovered that humanity could not be controlled, could not be broken. And once they accepted that, we could finally work together. The child thought about that for a moment. Is that why we are called humanity? Because we stay human even when things are hard? The teacher nodded. That is exactly right. Being human means refusing to give up, finding solutions when everyone says there are none, turning enemies into friends. That is who we are. That is who we will always be. Outside the classroom window, ships moved through Martian orbit. Human ships.
Alien ships.
Ships built together, crewed together, defending the galaxy together. The Senate had tried to end humanity's story. Instead, they had helped write the beginning of a much larger tale. And somewhere in deep space, Admiral Kate Morrison and the crew of